Warm up 65. Number 1, find the area of a circle with a radius of 3 centimeters. So, area equals pi r squared. Always start with the formula. We're looking for area, so you start with area equals pi r squared. So, area equals 3.14 times the radius squared, and the radius is 3. So, you should get an answer that looks like 28 and 2600 centimeters squared. Area is always squared. Don't just drop off those numbers right there. You can write out to the hundredths place. 2, angle A measures 65 degrees. What is its complementary angle measure? Complementary angles add up to what? 90 degrees. So 90 degrees minus the 65 leaves you with 25 degrees. The complementary angle is 25 degrees. If you don't have these, you need to be showing your work and writing them down right now. 3, if the circumference of a circle is 43 4/10 centimeters, what is its diameter? So, circumference equals pi times the diameter. It tells us what the circumference is, so we use substitution and change the C to 43.4 equals, you know that pi is 3.14 times the diameter. The inverse of multiplying by 3.14 is dividing by 3.14. And I got like 13.82, blah, 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 blah. So I decided to round to my tenths. That 2 told the 8 to stay in 8. So I said the diameter is 13.8 centimeters. If you rounded to the nearest one, you would have said 14. The last one. Triangle ABC has two 40-degree angles. What is the measure of the third angle? So what do we know about triangles? The angles add up to 180. So 180 minus 40 plus 40 is 80. So 180 minus 80 is 100 degrees. The third angle is 100 degrees. Now, is this drawn appropriately if the third one is 100 degrees? No. What kind of triangle did I draw? I drew acute, and it does look like an equilateral. It looks like an acute equilateral. What should I have drawn with this being 100 degrees? I should have drawn an obtuse angle. I didn't know, though, until I did the math, and I was just trying to help myself see. And then I had people that wrote, like, 40 was here, and 40 was here, and this was 100. Is that the right place for an angle? No, those are the side lengths. We weren't talking about the side lengths. We're talking about the angles. So that would not be appropriate. You have to know the difference between angles and side lengths, right? Okay, so let's put that to the side. You need your journal. We're going to start the new unit. Hopefully you picked up all the papers on the back table. If you don't have your journal, you're going to need to make notes on paper. I will put up the table of content first. So, we finished Unit 5. I didn't have enough room to really start Unit 6, so I turned the page. If you have room, you can keep going, but I turned the page. Unit 6. On page 123, you're going to put the Unit 6 overview, which is this paper. On 125, you're going to put the vocabulary, and this says Unit 5 vocabulary. This is now Unit 6. Unit 6 vocabulary. And then on page 127, we're going to do the probability 0 to 1 or out of 100%. Yes, we ended at 121 on stem and leaf plots. Is that good? Yes? Okay. And so once you put this in your table of content, glue these two things on. And then what I want you to do is I want you to take this and I want you to cut all of these pieces apart and lay them out on your desk. We're going to do an activity together with those. So, table of content, glue these two things in your book, cut these things apart, and then when everybody's ready, we'll move on to the next step. So, on page 127, It says probability from 0 to 1 or out of 100%. Draw a line and make a mark for 0 and for 1. There's a 0 and a 1. Then mark the halfway mark. And then from 0 to half, you're going to mark a half there. And then from here to here, you need a halfway mark. So you need them kind of spaced out. You need to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marks spaced out. Does that make sense? Is everybody ready? You've all got that? Okay, so if we're talking about the probability that something will happen, if there's a 0 chance, that is 0%. 0 chance is 0%. It's not going to happen, right? If we say that it's a whole chance, that's 100% chance. And that means something is definitely going to happen. So from 0% to 100%. So what is this? What's the percent if we mark it halfway? 50%. Right here, what percent would this be? Halfway between 0 and 50 is 25%. And this one would be 75%. So we can give things a percent chance that they might happen or that they definitely will happen. What can we call these as decimals? Well, this is a decimal would be 0.0. What would this be as a decimal? 25 hundredths. What's this one as a decimal? 5 tenths or 50 hundredths. What's this one? 75 hundredths. And what is this? 1.0 or just a 1. We already have a 1. Let's talk about its fractions. What would they be as fractions? Well, this one does not have a fraction. What would 25 hundredths be as a fraction, Clinton? 1/4. So that means there's a 1 out of 4% chance. What's the fraction for 50%? 1/2. 2/4, but 2/4 simplifies to 1/2. What's the fraction for this one? 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So that means 3 out of 4 times something would happen. What's this one? 4/4, which simplifies to 1/2. Okay, so we can talk about probabilities in terms of 0 to 1 for likelihood. We can talk about them as a percent. We can talk about them as a decimal. We can talk about them as a fraction. All right. We're also, I know when I taught 5th grade, I'm not sure if you all talked about probability in 5th grade, but we talked about them with these certain words right here. And each one of these words is going to match the likelihood or the probability. Anybody have an idea of what word would match a 0% chance? What is it, Mackenzie? Impossible. If something has a 0% chance, it's impossible that it will ever happen. So we're going to put a little glue on that. And we're going to put it under the 0. There's a 0% chance. That's impossible. All right. Anybody know where one of the other words might go? Clint? Likely might go on the 75%. Let's see. We'll put it there and we'll think about it. I'm not going to glue mine in yet. Anybody else know where something might go? Julie? Unlikely is at 25%. Jared? Even chance. There's a 50-50 chance. It might happen, it might not. And last, Faith? Certain is 100%. It's definitely going to happen. Does everybody agree with that? Those placements? Okay, let's glue those in. Those are definitely where they go. I always think of unlikely as like when my kids ask me if they can do something and I was like, I don't know, we'll see. What do y'all think that means? probably not. I just don't want to tell you no and make you mad. So I'm just like, I don't know. We'll see. So that pretty much means it's unlikely. It's not necessarily impossible. There's a small chance that, you know, I might let it happen. Probably not, though. Y'all get answers like that? Yeah. Oh, wow. You're lucky then. Because that's not the way I roll in my house. Mm-mm. All right. So let's look at these other things, and we're going to try and think about what the probability is that these things will happen. Let's start right here with the Braves. What do you think the likelihood is that the Braves will win the World Series? Is it I mean, right now, do we already know if they're going to win or not? I'm going to put it at even chance because the season really hasn't started yet. I mean, it started, but we're not that far into it. The World Series is not until the fall. So let's just go ahead and put it at even chance. If you're a huge Braves fan, I wouldn't get mad if you put it over here at likely. If you hate them, I wouldn't get mad if you put it over here at unlikely. But it's definitely, we can't answer impossible or certain, right? Those definitely could not be the answer. All right. Let's talk about if you drop a rock in water, it will sink. Is that certain?
No, it's like likely.
It's likely. I've been doing this for years, and there was one group that said they Googled it, and there's one kind of rock that kind of floats a little bit.
Hey, you know
like,
those rocks that they throw? Is that what it is?
Yeah, rocks that they throw. Yeah.
You can throw all kinds of rocks, but
I would say it's likely, probably almost certain. I would say it's probably more like 90% than 75%, but since our choices are just these two, and there's apparently one kind of rock that doesn't always sink, then we have to say that one. Jesse? Yeah, and I think a lot of times if the water has a lot of like salt content in it, and because like I'm a person that does not generally float in water, my body composition is just, I don't float. And so, but if I went to like the Dead Sea where there's a lot of salt in the water, everybody floats really easy. So, all right, so let's look. You will go to the beach sometime. Now, this one is kind of a personal one. Sometime, if you've never been to the beach, it might be unlikely. Or if you're a person like me that goes often, it's certain. If Mr. Miller wants me to be happy, it better be certain that at some point I'm going to the beach. Because happy wife, happy life. So I'm going to put mine in certain. You put yours wherever you think it fits for you. All right, here's a good one. You will meet President George Washington on the way home from school. Why is that impossible? He's dead. He's dead. Yeah, I'm not sure that we need to worry about the zombie George Washington. Well, then run really fast, and maybe you won't meet him. Okay. All right. Next, let's look at, okay, if tomorrow is Friday, no, if today is Friday, tomorrow will be Saturday? That's certain.
what if they change it? Oh, that'll be...
If y'all don't want to have Friday homework, we got to get busy. All right. How about it will rain tomorrow? Even chance. I watch the news. It's like a 20% chance. So I might put it, since I've watched the news, I know it's pretty unlikely. But even chance, I'm good with that too. They do. They don't know what they're talking about. No, he doesn't. I'm not a fan. No, I'm definitely not a fan of old Chipper. All right. You will have 2 birthdays this year.
My parents are divorced. I'm having 2 birthdays this year.
But you might be having 2 birthday celebrations.
Oh, you don't like the
But we're talking about actual birthdays. So, impossible. That's 2. Uh-oh.
You can't have a birthday. You can't be born at like. Well, I mean, maybe you could. You could be born at like 11:59, and then still the day before.
No, they're still going to pick one definitive time that you were born. Okay, here we go. So let's pretend that tomorrow is a school day. Let's not get into the whole tomorrow's Saturday. So, we've had a couple of days when we've had 100% attendance. So I don't know that I would say it's certain that someone's going to be absent. I would put mine under likely. Yeah, we're just going to pretend that tomorrow's a school day. We're not going to get into the whole Saturday thing. So I would say that it's likely that someone will be absent, especially with it still being flu season, but it's not certain. Okay. The sun will rise tomorrow morning. That's certain. Every day you've been alive, the sun has come up, sir. Shh. We can't worry about that. We can't borrow trouble. Okay. This one's going to be kind of personal. You will watch TV sometime today.
Can it be like your phone? Does it have to be your actual?
No. You can, no. If you watch a TV show on your phone, that counts.
Okay, certain.
Okay. Mine's likely. I don't always watch TV. But sometimes. Most of the time. It will snow this week.
It's not unlikely. It snowed this weekend, didn't it? It snowed in 93 and it wasn't snowing. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to put it under unlikely. It's not impossible because it's still been getting very cold overnight, right? So I think it's going to be unlikely. All right, this one's rather personal. I would think most of you would have the same answer. You'll be in 8th grade next year.
Well, we don't know that because I put unlikely. I'm going to put certain because I'm hoping for the best.
Just put it where you feel like it belongs. I'm going to put mine at impossible because I'm not going to 8th grade. But since this is Shelby's, I'm going to put it over here under certain. All right. Any questions about how we made those decisions? So that was kind of common sense, wouldn't you agree? Yeah, so this is kind of an easy unit if you're talking about probability in terms of 0 to 1 with it being 100%. Yes? Okay. All right, so put this to the side. Let's look at the skills practice, and let's see if we can get through part of that skills practice before we leave, at least. Do what? Yeah. Hurry. In just a minute. Okay, let's look at let's look at the skills practice. So we're going to look at probability of simple events, of just one thing happening, not depending on something else, the probability of a simple event. Okay. A card is randomly chosen. These are the cards. They're flipped upside down so you can't see what they are. So we're talking about the probability of a simple event. Write each answer as a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. Okay? Number 1 says, what is the probability? That's what that capital P means. What's the probability that you will draw a B? Let's think about what the fraction is. So if I draw those cards, what's the fractional probability that I'll draw a B? So if those are all flipped over, is it certain? Pull a card, draw it. Is that a fraction? So how many?
No. That's likely on the thing.
How many?
Look, there's only one B right there.
Thank you. There's only one B out of how many total cards? Please. So there's only one B out of 8 total cards. So the fraction is there's a 1 out of 8 chance that you will draw a B, that there's a probability that you'll draw a B. How are we going to turn that into a fraction? How are we going to turn that fraction into a decimal? How do we change a fraction to a decimal? What is it? Divide. What are we going to divide? 1 divided by 8. So that is 125 thousandths. And what is that as a percent? Move that 2 places to the right and you get 12.5%. So it's not very likely that you're going to draw a B. It's less than 13%, right? All right, this one says, what's the probability that you'll draw a Q or an R? Well, there's 1 Q and there's 1 R. So that's 2 out of 8. 2 eighths. What is that as a decimal? Yes. 25 hundredths, which is 25%. What is the probability, that's what the P means, probability that you'll draw a card that is a vowel? Jesse. 3 out of 8. A, E, and O. So 3 eighths. Let's find that decimal. And you get 375 thousandths. And what is that as a percent? 37.5%. What does that mean? It means it's halfway between 37% and 38%. That's what that means. What's the probability that you will choose a consonant or a vowel? 8 out of 8. All of them are either a consonant or a vowel, which is 1.0, and that is 100%. What's the probability that you will draw a consonant or an A? So consonants are all of them but these, so that's 5, and then plus the A, 6 out of 8, which is 75 hundredths, which is 75%. Last one, what's the probability that you'll draw a T? 0. 0, there are no T's, which is 0%. So that would be impossible, right? So, not a very difficult concept because you already understood a lot about probability before we started this. So, we're going to finish the front of this sheet on Monday. So you need to find somewhere to put this so that you know where it's at on Monday, either in your math journal, in your math notebook, or put it back in the 4th block drawer under the lamp so that you know where to find it on Monday.